The show, this video is called Our Dad's Garage. He's my dad. Yeah! Also my tooth squiggly. Ha!
All right, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else. It's JD. I'm out here in the shop this morning and I'm working on the old 53 again. And I needed a way to roll metal. There's no flat panels on this car. So I've picked an interesting car to really like. It's all round. It's kind of like restoring a Volkswagen Bug. They're just all curves. And in order to start replacing sheet metal, like these pieces like this that we took out of the behind the wheels, the rear quarter panels. To recreate that, you need a roll of some kind to roll sheet metal to get a good bend in it. And I did the first one over my knee and it didn't turn out so great. It's not bad. But I just got to thinking about some scrap pieces that I had around here. I looked online and found some things, and then I went downtown and I found a guy at a place called Casters Unlimited, and it's the same place that I bought the casters for the cart that I made that the body is actually sitting on now. And it just got me thinking. I saw that he had a lot of like warehouse parts, so things for moving things inside a warehouse. And one of the things that he had on shelves were these rollers for like assembly line, or for you know, just you've seen the warehouses set up where they just have these big long chains and they roll boxes across these. So these are pretty heavy duty rollers that he had, and this one is 2 feet long. He also had these even bigger. These have press bearings in them. These are super heavy duty that you would find maybe in a steel shop or something like that, but they are replacement rollers for conveyor belts. And because there's thousands of them in these warehouses, you can buy these cheap. So I bought 3 of these, and I bought 3 of these, a little bit different, and he charged me $20 for 6 of them. These are cool too, because if you push on one end to here, that's how you put them into the system. They work like a toilet paper dispenser kind of a thing. So I have decided that I'm going to build a metal roll, a slip roll, using these heavy steel bearings in both ends. These actually have an axle already into them. And I'm going to use, of all things, an old Black & Decker workbench. I'm going to show you this kind of setup. And this is me. I just kind of mocked this up just the other day. So that's going to be kind of my setup, that Black & Decker workbench. And the great thing about this workbench is, with these little cranks on the side over here, I can adjust the way these 3 come together. So what I have seen online on all of these homemade slip rolls is a pretty elaborate way to fix the 2 bottom rolls together and then manipulate the top one to push down into them and then create that roll so that when you press that. And there's different guys, and they've made different ways to adjust this angle. And there's going to be quite a bit of force in there if you think about the way theirs is done. My drawing is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to mount, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to mount, this is one piece of metal here. It mounts to the table. This is my bracket, L bracket. These 2 axes or axles will mount on the same piece, and this one is going to mount on the other side of the workbench, and this piece will be able to slide in and out. So this will be fixed. These 2 are fixed. The metal will slide between them, and I'll be able to manipulate this angle. So the metal will actually feed in through this. It'll go under here. And when you push these completely together, I've got an example of how severe the bend is somewhere. No, I don't. Well, I did. Anyway, if you push them completely together, you'll create nearly that sharp of a bend, which you'll never need. I can't imagine ever needing something like that. But as the table gets closer and closer together, of course, your bend will get more and more severe. So that's my drawing. This is kind of an overhead of what I'm going to do. The two pieces, so these two rollers will be fixed on one, and this is the other side. It will be able to slide in. I've got a couple of pieces of, let me just kind of show you what I'm working with. I've got a couple of these old L brackets. These actually came with a seatbelt kit for the other car. I hang on to everything, so I don't throw anything away. I've got a bunch of hardware for bolts. I may have to go to Home Depot and grab that. I've got this, some block stock aluminum. I don't know what that came on. I can't remember, but I kept it. I'm going to use that as my uprights to mount them on, and I'll cut those. Probably have to cut them with the angle grinder, with the cutting wheel on it. I don't have anything else to cut that with. And then we'll drill press, you know, the holes through it that all that will sit on. But we're going to try that and see if we can come up with a really cheap slip roll. That will be technically all in. I'm $20 because everything else I had, it's basically old scrap and things like that. So that's what we're going to try to do today. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, so that's my drawing, and this is the piece of aluminum block that I'm actually going to make it on. So what I've done is I've recreated this as a 66 degree or a 60 degree angle here. So I got my little speed square out and I figured my 60 degree angle. So if I cut this piece out, which would be this piece, then I'm already going to create my angle here. So I've only got to create one more cut. So I'm going to cut here and I'm going to cut here. But before I do that, I have marked all of my holes that I need for the axles for these rollers to pop through. They are 3/8, I believe. I'll make sure what size that is before I drill. And then I'm going to make a 3/8 hole here for the angle bracket, this piece that will sit on here as well. So you'll kind of see the method to the madness. I've figured out where those holes would be based on just placing this on here and making my X. That's where that one's going to go. I've got another one that's going to go here. So if I make those holes there, then I'll have something to mount with. But these holes I figured out because the roller itself, the diameter of that roller is 1 7/8 inches. It's not quite 2 inches, 1 7/8 inches. So the axis between here and here needs to be 1 7/8 inches. It needs to be 1 7/8 inches between here and here, between those axes, those axes there. So just using my speed square and a ruler, I was able to determine about where these are going to be. This is probably not going to be a precision tool. It's going to be a tool that will work for what I need. I don't think this is going to be something or a design that anybody's going to use in a machine shop anytime soon. So I don't want to get you thinking you're going to make some kind of crazy great thing out of this, but it is going to work, I think. We moved over here to the drill press, and I like to do things, I've always admired guys that do things the right way. They're meticulous, they do it all the right way. And I probably should be more that way, but I'm more the guy that kind of does things the easy way. So I'm over here at the drill press. I'm going to get this set up. I've got my clamp here. I'm going to help me hold my steel. It is a 1/2 bit for the axis or the axle that we're going to put through here. So I'm going to have to line that up. But my thinking on this is it really doesn't matter what this angle is. What matters is the relationship between the three holes that the axles will go through. So if we make two pieces, the front and the back, and then I create exact duplicates of these by doing it one more time, it really doesn't matter what my angles are as long as the relationship is the same on both ends so that they're square. And as long as that is, it just doesn't matter. And I've already know that the distance between them is right, and then this is the piece that will be able to manipulate the tension on. So this is not measured out perfect. I'm not going to do a whole lot of. I've got a buddy of mine, Darren, who's a machinist. If he watches this video, he will probably laugh at the elementary level of construction that this is. So all you machinists out there, this is not a machinist video. This is just kind of a video that I'm making really maybe so kids that are, you know, 14, 16, 18 years old can look at this and say, you know, there's some things that we can do with some pretty basic tools to build some other things that'll make us make our shop a better shop. So that's what we're doing. Anyway, just want to let you know what I'm doing. So I'm going to line this up and I'm going to drill these three holes, and the next thing you'll see is that piece, and then we'll cut it. Okay, gang, here's my setup. I've got that lined up just perfect, so when I drop my drill, it's going to hit right in that spot. One thing you should think about anytime you're doing things with metal, if that drill bit bites, it is going to kick around. So one clamp is not sufficient. One clamp will give you a pivot point, and that's about all. So 2 clamps, you might even do 3 clamps, but I believe 2 clamps do. This is aluminum, so it should drill pretty easy. The other thing is, I always use a little 3-in-1 oil. Now it's going to mess up your mark, so don't put your oil on until you're ready to drill, and don't get it over here on your other marks if you use a Sharpie, because that'll dissolve those marks. But just a little drop of oil, and then we turn them on, and lower, and we start to slowly press our way in. There's our first hole. We'll make 2 more. I'll set up hole number 2. All right, 2 down, 1 to go. Drilled. These were existing. I'm just not going to use those. We're going to make this cut now. We're going to hold off on this cut to the very end. I'm going to make this cut, and then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to mirror it on this end because these already had holes in it too. I'm just going to use up the 2 ends of scrap, and I'll keep this bar because you never know what might use that for. But I'll make this cut, and then I'll flip this over and I'll make the exact same piece as that one. In the next video you'll see I'll have 2 pieces there. Okay, gang, I'll show you what I've got so far. So I've put the rollers inside the brackets that I made. So I made these pieces here. They're just kind of sitting in here right now. I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to mount these to get them out of the way to make sure there's no interference. But you can see I've got them clamped here now. This was kind of my original idea, was to use these brackets here to mount them to the table. So what will happen is, when you come to this side, these little workbenches, what they do is when you crank this crank, what you're going to be able to do is manipulate. You see, when I crank this crank back, I'll be able to manipulate the distance between that back roller and these front 2. So the metal will feed through here, and it will come on top of the next roller back here. And depending on how much force I put on it, that's how much bend we'll get in there. So it should be something we can use pretty well. So it's all looking pretty good so far. Right now, I'm going to have to drill these little holes right here to mount this piece, and then I'm going to get these brackets mounted to this surface of this little workbench here. And when I'm back, I'll show you that. All right, guys. Well, I've got a little bit of modification left to do on this, but look this is a piece of 24 gauge galvanized, and I was able to feed that through and literally make a tin can out of it. I can kind of show you. I mean, it did a pretty good job. Now this is not going to work for 16 gauge metal. There's no way. But for 18 gauge fender metal, when you get it in there, what we'll have to do, the one thing I did discover is I am going to have to do a tighter bend on the very end of the piece in order to get it to start on there. But that's not a big deal. You can probably do that with just with pliers or with. But once you get your piece fed through there, it turned flat metal into a round bar like that. The really cool thing is when I didn't have the strength in the table really to let me back this off just a little bit. When the table itself doesn't really have the strength to do that, I could crank it all the way down on both sides and put my hands on here and really give it a tight roll. And if you needed to make something even tighter than what I've made, and I'm still getting more out of it just by putting my hands on it. So I think if you guys want to try something like that at home, that makes a really good, simple. I don't know what a slip roll costs online. I think Harbor Freight's got one for a couple $100. But you can manipulate this. Of course, you don't have to make tight. The hardest thing is to make these tight curves out of sheet metal, but a nice, smooth, continuous round curve such that we would use on these fenders. But you know, you could see if you had to replace something up in the top of that car, that's a really good start for a round piece like that. So you know, a round car like this, you're going to have probably something. This is a very inexpensive, easy design. The crazy thing is, you can pick these little Black & Decker workbenches up. I think the most expensive one they make is $135. They make a $75 or $90 version of it too. If you had to buy one, they completely fold flat. I just thought with the way you could manipulate the two pieces that this made a lot of sense. And this is something you can then take this back off, put this in a box somewhere. You'd always have it, and you'd have your little workbench here instead of spending, you know, $200 on a big piece of something that's going to sit in your shop and never be used again after you get through with this build. But that just shows you, you know, what you can do if you just kind of put your brain to it and use what's on hand. This is my MacGyver Frankenstein slip roll. Hope you like it. So guys, I've just been out here in the shop just kind of playing with this design, and it really works great. I mean, this is 18 gauge fender steel, and I was able to make a tight curve with that the same way as I did with the 24 gauge, and then I was able to straighten it back out. This is all ratted out. I'd really beat on this piece quite a bit. But the crazy thing about this, the way this works, is just by using these two rollers here, I can give a little up pressure here and give it a little roll, and I can straighten that back out if I bend it too far. And now I've got a flat panel with a curve at the bottom. I can feed the curvy part back in there and give it a little pressure down and just kind of roll it like so. Just using these two rollers. And if you really need a tight curve, you can bring the third one in. But you can see I'm manipulating that corner or that end there and getting more and more curve out of it. So this thing is really going to work. I may patent this. I don't know. This is pretty crazy. Maybe this is the thing that I've been waiting for my whole life to come through for me. This could be it. I could be known as the slip roller king, like the MyPillow guy, except now I'd be the slip roller king. I don't know if everybody would maybe buy one, but maybe I could sell 10 or 20 or something. But it works great. So, you know, if you want to try it at home, very inexpensive. What I'll do is I'll post my drawings up there so you can see exactly what I did. This is still pretty crude. I've got it just clamped to the table, but if you were to bolt this down, I've been messing with it for about 20 minutes, and I'm really impressed. I don't know that I could buy one that would work as good as this. So there you have it. Okay, well, that's the final. I've got all of the hardware on it. It's not just clamped together now. And it's on a Black & Decker Workmate. I mean, that thing's probably 25, 30 years old. Wasn't getting a lot of use. And now I've built a 2-foot sheet metal roll. Made a perfect little piece to match my fender right there. Now this was a piece of stock that I had used and bent up several different times. There's Harley.
Hi.
And now I was able to make that really just using these 2 rollers here. But if you really need to get it tight, you can just crank this down and bring the other roll in, and you can make some really tight stuff. So it really did work. I mean, it worked as well as, I don't know if you saw this. That's about as tight as it'll go. Pretty good though. Anyway, I'll show the plans.